With other sports brands like Nike, Adidas, and Puma battling over which pro sports team will wear their uniforms or which top athletes will wear their shoes, how does one break into the world of sports apparel? For Gymshark, the answer was simple. It was all about viral marketing. We will go into just how Gymshark found a way to get the word out without paying for ads, as well as just why it worked for them. Make sure that you stick around until the end of the video too, because we have some news about Gymshark that you probably have never heard of. Chapter 1. The Warm-Up. It's hard to believe that Gymshark, which has now earned that rare classification of unicorn startup, was started right in the creator's bedroom. It was Ben Francis's bedroom to be exact, and massive success was about to strike. Ben and his college friend Lewis Morgan came up with the idea for the athleisure company when they were still in college, and would continue it even after Ben dropped out. At the time, Ben was working as a delivery driver for Pizza Hut, but his long-shot dream was only a few short months from becoming a reality. An information technology class that Ben took while still at his university would prove to be an important part of Gymshark's origins, as the store was going to be 100% online. Gymshark wasn't even Ben's first idea for a fitness apparel site, however, and he had actually been making websites for years just for the fun of it. By 2011, Ben was able to easily create a website that had everything that he and his friend Lewis needed to be genuine retailers. It was almost like Ben had been working his way up to this business venture for years, and when the time came, he was more than ready for it. Gymshark began as a dropshipping website for supplements. For those that don't know, dropshipping is essentially when you are taking customer orders but don't actually have the items for those orders in stock. Dropshipping companies serve as a sort of middleman where your whole job is to market and sell items. There really isn't that much risk with dropshipping either, as you don't actually have to pay for creating the merchandise or the space for stocking yourself. Dropshipping can be a great way to make money, but it is also hard to grow and scale that kind of model. You also don't really have any control over the quality of the product, which is obviously important, or the amount that you can ship. Because of this, most people want to get out of dropshipping as soon as possible in order to have more control over their product as well as their bottom line. Within the supplement market, though, there were a lot of companies that use Gymshark to peddle their goods, as it can be hard to find that middleman, and supplement companies would rather have someone else do it and save themselves the headache. Chapter 2. Gymshark officially arrives. In 2013, just 2 years after launching Gymshark, Ben and Lewis decided to expand the business a little bit. What had started as just drop-shipping bodybuilding and workout supplements was now going to add apparel to the mix. This would, as we all know, be the real bread and butter of what Gymshark was going to become. But at the time, Lewis and Ben were a little hesitant. They noted how they were going from a business model with very little risk or skin in the game to a company that was starting to take risks in an effort to grow. The two decided, however, that this ultimately was the only way forward, and so they proceeded. Originally, Ben was actually crafting the workout clothes in his parents' garage, using a single sewing machine and a screen printer for the logos. The clothes were made on a made-to-sell basis, and the entire process was about as grassroots as you could get. Ben had even spent 1,000 euros from his savings just to create this pretty bare-bones setup. It represented a sort of turning point for him, though, and he was more invested than ever in making Gymsharks work. During the first year after setting up in the garage, Ben and Lewis only made about 500 euros per day. In 2013, Gymshark would head to a fitness event to market their stock. Their time at the Body Power Fitness trade show turned out to be incredibly profitable, and word of mouth started to spread quickly around England. The two sold out all their stock on the first day, and after the show, their Luxe tracksuit would go viral on Facebook. Going viral would prove to be massive for the startup company, and it would also be extremely profitable. They made 30,000 euros in just 30 minutes that day. From here, there were a lot of different paths to take, and Ben and Lewis wanted to be careful to make sure they capitalized off their sudden success. But how would they accomplish this? We'll get to that in just a moment. But before that, if you could please leave a like on this video, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps us out in a big way. Also, if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure and subscribe to the channel. Part 3. Going viral. The Gymshark brand was finally getting some attention, which was a great relief to both Ben and Lewis. They were so impressed by the success following the bodybuilding show that they actually dropped out of their university. For Ben, this was the second time. They wanted to fully focus on the company, and now that they had made over 250,000 euros, they realized they had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity staring them in the face. Ben and Lewis decided that the best way for Gymshark to compete was to stay away from what other brands were doing. There wasn't a world where Gymshark was going to be able to compete with the titans of the industry, but they figured out that maybe they don't even have to try. Gymshark began to approach influencers, both in and out of the fitness community, to start marketing the leggings on their posts. All Ben and Lewis asked them to do was post themselves wearing it and tag them in it. This turned out to be a big deal, as people began buying more Gymshark leggings based off of what they were seeing on social media. Best of all, though, is that these models and influencers wearing their brand helped to legitimize Gymsharks for people too. The company may not have been Nike or Adidas, but they were carving out their own niche for people that didn't really care about all that. To the surprise of Ben, there were a lot of people that didn't care what brand a professional athlete wore. They just cared about how the leggings looked and how they felt. Now that Gymshark was an established commodity and they had a stable consumer base, they were finally able to take their foot off the gas a bit. Gymshark began to try and establish a tone for their brand, and they chose a very interesting approach. Gymshark has decided to take an informal kind of voice for their marketing and aren't afraid to look goofy or post memes. This is becoming increasingly popular across brand accounts, but Gymshark has truly committed to it. If anything, this has actually helped them too, as Gymshark has further separated themselves from the brands that they used to be so afraid to compete with. In the sports equipment market, it's not very common that you get a company that is willing to laugh at themselves and doesn't take themselves that seriously. There has been a market that Gymshark has earned that not a lot of people really realized, and that is for people who work out or wear athleisure that aren't wrapped up in the world of sports. Discovering this hidden market and sort of cornering it may have been the most impressive part of Gymshark's success story so far. Part 4. Staying relatable after the blow-up. The hardest thing to do when you reach the top of the world is to stay there, which is where Gymshark is sort of at. An exciting bit of news, though, is that a familiar face is making its way back to the company. Ben Francis left Gymsharks in 2015 in a decision that he called one of the hardest of his life. He seemed remorseful, talking about it in interviews after returning recently, and you may find yourself wondering why he would do that. Well, Ben says it best when he talks about how just because he was able to create Gymsharks, which was a dream of his for years, doesn't mean that he knew how to be the CEO of a huge business. We can often take this sort of thing for granted, as of course for most people this is the dream. For Ben though, he just didn't feel it was something he was ready for at just 19 years old, and that he needed to take some time away in order to get right. Now, closer to 30 than 20, Ben retakes his position at Gymshark. When asked about the future of the company, Ben has a really interesting answer. He plans on making Gymshark the English athletic company, similar to how Nike is to America and Lululemon is to Canada. Ben feels like there is something to this idea, and it also serves a secondary purpose: avoiding the competition. You see, throughout Gymshark's journey, they have managed to stay far away from the giants of athleisure, even as they become one themselves. Now, with Gymshark starting to open up physical stores and their value ballooning to over $1 billion in value, it may seem surprising that they are not going headfirst at these big brands. Ben seems to value the situation that Gymshark is in, though, as well as knowing how important his consumer base is. Countless companies have struggled to keep their brand identity strong as they continue to climb, and that is something that Ben is now trying to avoid. It also seems like Gymshark will continue to use influencers for their content. At least that's what is believed to be happening. Lewis left the company back in 2015, but Ben was always more of a fan of the influencer angle anyways. Ben himself is an influencer who has a YouTube channel of his own. On it, he usually posts inspirational stuff, or even some life advice, as well as a vlog every here or there. He's clearly tapped in though, as he has always hired the right talent to represent his company. We talked a little before about how Gymshark is a unicorn startup, which is a big compliment. That definition has to do with how fast and efficiently this company was able to establish itself and become a force. Now, a few years later, it's interesting to see a more methodical approach to things. Whatever Gymshark does next could be big, as they have their original creator back and refreshed for another try at steering the company to further greatness. And that about gets us to the modern day when it comes to Gymshark. Do you guys think that Gymshark was smart for going the viral route? Or would you have tried to go for physical locations and more traditional growth earlier in the company's history? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, as we are really curious about your answer. We hope you enjoyed and even learned something from this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and to also subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. We'll see you guys next time for another video.